All right, let's pop the hood on how a business really works. I mean, ever stop and think about how a huge company, or any company really, can handle millions of sales, purchases, and paychecks without everything just collapsing into chaos? Well, that's what we're diving into today. Seriously, think about it. It's a constant flood of data. A customer buys a coffee, a factory orders new parts, an employee gets paid. How do you manage all that information so that it's accurate, it's efficient, and you actually know if you're making money? It sounds like an impossible job, but there's actually a really elegant system that makes it all click. And the secret is this: the transaction cycle. Instead of trying to track every single thing in one giant messy pile, businesses are smart about it. They group related activities together. You can kind of think of them as specialized assembly lines for different parts of the financial factory. This whole framework is what brings order to the chaos. Okay, so let's start our tour where all the action is, where the money comes in. This is the revenue cycle. It covers every single thing that happens from the moment a customer says, "I'll take it," to the glorious moment that cash is sitting in the company's bank account. So this path always follows a few key steps. First, you've got sales order entry. That's the official go signal for a sale. Then, shipping physically gets the product out the door and to the customer. After that comes billing, where the invoice is sent out. And of course, the grand finale, cash collection, where the money actually comes home. These four steps, they're the absolute backbone of every single sale. And you know, what's really cool here is that it's a total team effort. You've got the sales team kicking things off, the shipping department getting the product moving, and then accounts receivable handling the money side of things. They all have to be perfectly in sync, using key documents like sales orders and invoices to make sure everyone's on the same page. Now, let's flip the coin. A business has to spend money to make money, right? Well, that's all managed in what's called the expenditure cycle. This is where a company handles buying everything it needs, from paper clips and raw materials to advertising services. This process is all about one thing: control. It starts when someone inside the company officially requests something. Then, a formal order is placed. The goods show up and get checked, the supplier's invoice is double-checked to make sure everything lines up, and only after all that does the payment finally go out. See? Each step is a checkpoint to make sure money isn't just flying out the window. And this paper trail is what makes that control possible. The purchase order is the official instruction to buy. The receiving report is the proof of what actually showed up at the loading dock. Then, accounts payable plays detective, matching everything up before cash disbursements actually cuts the check. Every single document is another layer of control. Okay, for any company that actually makes something, our next stop is the factory floor. This is the production cycle. It's where raw materials get transformed into finished goods. It's where value is literally built from the ground up. This cycle is pretty amazing. It takes an idea from the design phase and turns it into a physical reality. It's this complex dance of scheduling the work, pulling the right materials from the warehouse, and assembling the final product, all while keeping a super close eye on the costs of labor and all the factory overhead. Here, documents like the bill of materials, which is basically the product's recipe, and the job cost sheet are absolutely crucial. They let the cost accounting and production teams know exactly how much it costs to make every single item. And that's vital for setting prices and, staying profitable. Now, let's talk about a company's most valuable asset. It's not the machines or the buildings, it's the people. The HR and payroll cycle manages everything related to employees, from the second they're hired to the second they get their paycheck. And believe me, this cycle is way more than just cutting checks. It handles hiring, training, and keeping all the employee files up to date. Then it has to collect everyone's time data and wade through this complex web of salaries, deductions, taxes, and benefits. Getting this right every single time is a huge responsibility. With things like the employee master file holding so much sensitive personal information, the name of the game here is accuracy and security. The HR and payroll departments have to work together without a single mistake, not just to follow the law, but to protect all that private employee data. Okay, our final cycle is the really big picture one, the financing cycle. This is where a company gets the major funds it needs to operate and expand. We're not talking about sales to customers here. We're talking about dealing with banks, lenders, and investors. This is where the huge strategic decisions get made. Should the company take out a massive loan, or should it issue new shares of stock to raise cash? This cycle manages all of that. It handles the big influx of capital, makes sure loans get repaid on time, and pays out dividends to shareholders. This is high-level financial strategy in action.
As you can imagine, this cycle involves some pretty serious legal and financial paperwork, all handled by the top-level finance and treasury departments. Things like loan agreements and stock certificates, these aren't just everyday receipts. They're major events that can shape the entire future of the company.
So we've walked through all 5 major cycles. But here's the thing. The real magic isn't in what any one cycle does on its own. It's in how they all connect, how they talk to each other to form one single, intelligent system. And this is probably the most important takeaway. They are all deeply interconnected. Information is constantly flowing between them. An action in one cycle is going to trigger a reaction in another. They don't operate in their own little bubbles. They work together like gears in a finely tuned engine. Let's make it super simple. Look at this flow. The expenditure cycle buys raw materials, let's say wood and screws. That info goes to the production cycle, which uses that wood and screws to build a chair. Once the chair is done, that info flows to the revenue cycle, which now knows it has a finished chair ready to sell to a customer. See? It's a completely logical, continuous chain of events. So where does all this information from all these cycles end up? It all flows into one place, the general ledger and reporting system. Just think of it as the central brain of the entire operation. It's the command center that collects and summarizes everything, so it can spit out the financial statements and reports that leaders use to make those big decisions. So let's boil it all down. You've got 5 core cycles, they all work together as one integrated system, and what does that give you? Total control and a crystal clear view of everything that's happening financially. And the reason this all matters so much is simple. When you have a system like this, departments can actually coordinate. It guarantees your accounting data is accurate. It builds a fortress of internal controls to prevent fraud and mistakes. But most importantly, it gives leadership the clear, reliable insights they need to actually steer the ship. It's the very foundation of any well-run business. So, now that you have the map of the financial engine, here's a final question for you. If you were in charge, based on everything we've just covered, where would you look first to try and make that engine run a little faster, a little smoother, or a little more efficiently? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.